Hello everyone, welcome to Herald Global. Today we have with us Ms. Sana Raees Khan, a prominent Supreme Court and Bombay High Court criminal lawyer, renowned for her sharp legal acumen and notable work on landmark cases in India. Her connection in some of the prominent cases like Aryan Khan's drug case, Sheena Bora murder case made her a household name. Let's deep dive into her journey. I am Saimik and you're watching Mind Speak. Okay, let me begin by asking you, what inspired you to pursue a career as a lawyer?
Yeah, so I've always had the desire to secure justice for people, like right from a young age. I was always like an enthu child, always standing up for those who couldn't speak while I was in school also, whenever my peers, like my colleagues or my friends
Sure.
ever suffered or, they were suffering in silence, they would come up to me and they would speak about it. And I was the one, who would actually, who would just take a stand for them and ensure that, their voices are heard and ensure that we secure justice for them. So that's how I've always been. Like I was always a rebel while I was a kid also. And I was always like, I never followed the crowd. I always carved my own niche. That's how I've always been. And law is in my blood also, honestly. So because I come from a family of lawyers, but
Sure.
my journey is specifically very different because I have started on my own. I never sought my parents' help for any case. For me, my success can only be attributed to word of mouth because when I was delivering, when because of my good work, orders were being delivered and, they get captured in the media. So somehow through word of mouth and people's an awareness amongst the public, that helps in somehow, strengthening your work. So that's how it happened for me. So I always ensure that one must speak for those whose voices are, who cannot speak for themselves.
True.
So that
True.
has always been there for me.
Okay, what was there in your mind when you decided to go for a criminal lawyer rather than going for the
Exactly.
commercial and the corporate?
Correct. So, honestly, I would like to clarify that I own a firm that deals with all branches of law,
Sure.
like
Sure.
everything, not necessarily criminal law, but of course, I specialize in criminal law, and that is how I'm known also, for my orders in the criminal litigation matters,
Definitely.
because somehow that draws and that captures media attention. For the corporate matters, that usually does not,
Yeah. True.
capture media attention that much because, and I've been, of course, known for defending the most unpopular clients also sometimes, that's the professional hazard. But, but for me, honestly, it was more like I don't believe in stereotypes, like, of course, when I joined in, I was told by my colleagues, few male colleagues that, hey, you're so pretty. What are you doing in this profession? Why don't you just join, movie business or do something which probably, which will be better for you for your looks because here you'll have to deal with criminals and ye wo. So I used to like, retort. I've always been very blunt. So I used to retort, okay, fine, even if I have to deal with gangsters, if you label them gangsters before when the court declares them guilty, then that's how you are. Probably you shouldn't be in this profession. You're not supposed to guide me or what I should do. And of course, the kind of dangerous matters that I dealing with
True.
all these, with, of course, where labels are given. So this is Chota Shakil, this is Dawood, this is that, she's a murderer. This is like a big organized crime syndicate. So all these labels are always there. But for me, this presumption of innocence, which is a cardinal principle of criminal jurisprudence, is innocence, presumption of innocence until he or she is proved guilty by the court. That
Sure.
has, of course, yeah, that has always been my guiding force. And that somewhere, helped me throughout. So, of course, it is a dangerous field, like criminal litigation. I've also received death threats, which is a known and already a part of public record and media records. But despite of that, I've always, stayed true to my calling because somehow criminal litigation is challenging, but it is also definitely very rewarding also.
True.
So
True.
that's how it is for me. I really enjoy my work.
Let's address some of the elephants in the room. Okay,
Okay.
one of which is Indrani Mukerjea, whom you have represented. Okay, in the
Yeah.
Sheena Bora murder case.
Correct, correct.
So, what legal strategy did you find which actually helped you?
Basically, see, when I took up the case, in fact, she was already behind the bars for about 6.5 years before I took up. And, she had bad experiences with several counsels before I took up the case. She had almost given up on her case. So when I took up, it was another challenge for me because she was anyway, like, very fragile that time. She had almost given up. So for me to not just taking up and taking the charge, I also ensured that, I strengthened her belief in her own case because she was
True.
already very confident. And I also, after reading the case and after going through the charge sheet, I became super confident that, okay, why is she even lingering? Why is she even incarcerated or inside for such a long time, despite of no evidence in the charge sheet, like nothing there. So then that's how, I first humanized Indrani before the court, because the media opinion, I don't get swayed with media
I'll come
opinion,
to
but
that. In my
Yeah,
next
Aryan
question,
gets
I'll come to that. Yeah,
correct,
sure.
and gets swayed by public opinion and media attention. But you know how media builds up the case and declares the person guilty before the person is
True.
declared in the court of law. So this is what had happened to her. Honestly, she was just declared guilty before even she was tried. When her trial had begun and
True.
commenced. Obviously, it was challenging for me. But then for me it was more about dismantling the prosecution evidence step by step, like because when I took up the case, a lot of witnesses had already deposed in the court. So
True.
taking out the contradictions in the depositions and all of that, and pointing that out before the court, and even during my bail arguments. So I ensured that all those loopholes, all those contradictions were pointed out. There were so many procedural lapses. Of course, it is an emotionally charged case with familial
True.
dynamic,
Very true.
but a strong motive is not established. So why would she kill her daughter? Just that motive is not established till date. There are so many different theories, coming out of the media based on presumption and just accusations, and based on just like, okay, ye ho sakta hai, wo ho sakta hai. But those are just probabilities. There is no concrete evidence or motive is established. So why would that even happen? A high profile lady, a media baron who is filthy rich. What would be the need for her to kill her own daughter? So that itself somehow just destroys the prosecution case right in the beginning. Then there are so many procedural lapses which are out in the media also. You are also aware,
Yes.
just the recent one, about the skull and what is happening. So if you go, I mean, trial wise, so of course we are going very strong. And even after securing her bail, I also secured another very big order from the Supreme Court, where I took a time bound direction. So Supreme
Sure.
Court has directed the trial to be concluded within a period of 1 year. So now the trial is actually proceeding on a day-to-day basis, every day basis. So now hopefully, she will be acquitted very soon, and she'll be
Okay.
free of all the charges.
Because of the kind of media coverage that was going on, okay,
Hmm.
in the public domain, and especially when it comes to the public sentiment itself, is
Hmm.
it was not aligned with the interest of Indrani, like in her story. So how do you manage such kind of a narrative, not only outside but also inside the courtroom?
So I genuinely believe that battles are won not in newsrooms but in courtrooms, right? So I don't get swayed by the media attention, or even media attention is inevitable in all my cases, because I handle and deal with mostly high profile cases. So that is of course inevitable. But I do not let that decide the fate of my case, because I'm very, very professional when it comes to handling the matters, sensitive matters, with a very cautious approach. So
Sure.
even if you see my interviews, wherever I have even spoken in my cases, I've been very accurate with my words, and I always ensure that only the right kind of things are said, and only whatever is supposed to be said is only whatever is needed is supposed to be spoken about. I do not really go out and speak about everything right in detail when matters are sub judice also, because some things are for the court to probably decide in the end. But of course, when necessary, I always speak up. But of course, media attention, media narratives, and how public opinion can of course largely affect the somehow the court matter also. That is why I always ensure that through my interviews, I always ensure that that media responsibility is to actually cover the case in a
Hmm.
manner that somehow does not jeopardize or damage somebody's case, because it's their life, for God's sake. It's people's lives that you're actually putting at
Sure.
stake. Just to sensationalize your own story, if you're actually over dramatizing something which is even far from facts and far from evidence, then it would somehow, somewhere, probably, that could lead to somebody's death. If that person is sentenced to death, then who will be responsible? If an
Sure.
innocent is actually hanged, because these are all matters where somebody's life is at stake. Life is at stake because of punishment. If you see, it's life imprisonment to death. So if somebody's hanged because of the wrong reporting, then who will be held accountable? So that accountability is also very important. That's why I always focus on facts, evidence, and have a very practical and pragmatic approach when it comes to my opinion or my speech in the media.
So you are in the legal team of Aryan Khan, Shahrukh Khan's son, and also a co-accused in the NCB case. First of all, I want to understand, like, for our viewers, for our listeners, like, how common is it for innocent victims to get framed like this?
It is very common, honestly. In my experience, I've seen that 80% of the cases are malicious prosecution. Honestly,
Sure.
they're falsely implicated. Hardly, rarely, like you'll see 20% cases could be genuine. Otherwise, innocents are languishing inside and behind the bars for cases they have not done, and probably somebody else has done, and these people are actually bearing the brunt of that and lingering inside, because the powerful sometimes due to influence, power, sometimes somebody just gets away very easily, scapegoating the innocent ones. So that is also a very common practice. And sometimes, because of that, honestly, that somehow how guides me even strongly, and that strengthens my even aim to actually ensure that I, put the all the incorrect ones who are there inside, just get them out. And sometimes people joke and tell me, अच्छा आप तो जेल खाली करा रहे हो. हाँ, मैं खाली करा रही हूँ, क्योंकि अगर गलत लोगों को आप जेल में भरोगे तो I will do that. I will ensure that the wrong ones who are actually the correct ones go inside. That's okay, because I intervene also sometimes. I oppose also, bail matters, that as a private intervener, and I ensure that the correct ones who are deserving enough, who are actually, for them the prison is designated, they should go inside. But the for the those who are being falsely implicated, they should definitely come out. So in like Aryan Khan case, what you spoke about, in that case, that's a classic example, where innocent, all these innocent young individuals were put behind the bars. Like, in a case where there was no recovery, nothing, in a case which would have been probably just for a normal individual, he would have secured bail probably in the magistrate court itself. And honestly, it was a case of anticipatory bail. Arrest bhi nahi hota. But यहाँ पे, just because somehow, the those who were arrested, few of them were powerful, and of course it was a media high profile case, and the media narrative was built. So obviously the case was bolstered up to a level where nobody could have imagined. Also in this case also, what happened was, of course, unfortunate. Rightfully later, of course, Aveen Sahu, who I defended vigorously, and even Aryan Khan, both were granted clean chit later. So my prime submissions, like I argued for about 4 hours in this matter, but my prime submission remained that, since there was no recovery, no recovery from Aryan Khan, no recovery from Aveen Sahu, but there was no blood test. Blood test was also not conducted to corroborate the charges of consumption. If you're putting somebody inside for the charges of consumption, at least be diligent enough to at least conduct the blood test. That was also not done. And then there were so many WhatsApp chats that were being shown to actually establish some large, chain of conspiracy. But all those chats were so irrelevant. They were so irrelevant and taken out of context. And and then again, conspiracy was the main charge, that section 29, which was invoked, that somehow, bolsters up the entire allegation. So what I pointed out is that merely being present in a drug cruise cannot, establish the chain or the charge of conspiracy. Because to establish that charge, you have to establish presence of mind and some kind of ill intention, amongst the parties, amongst these people involved, to establish that. And then only that could probably lead to a larger chain of conspiracy. Merely because these young individuals are there on a cruise to have fun, for that could not amount to an offense. For that, you cannot put them behind the bars. So of course, my one submission which somehow touched the chord was that these are all young individuals. If they are put behind the bars and they are kept in the company of hardened criminals inside, actually gangsters है, कितने तो hardened criminals है, उनके बीच में आप ये first time alleged offenders को रख दोगे, तो ये नहीं भी आएंगे, तो कल कोई gangster और या कोई hardened criminal बन के they will come out. So it is essential that not retributive approach is not really always the correct view. No, it is essential that ki hum thoda we should also have some humanitarian approach in such cases. So that was also, of course, emphasized by me, which somehow worked, and I secured the first bail in this case. My client was the first person to walk out, and that somehow just broke the chain, and of course eased the entire case.
But in general, in cases like this, the burden of providing evidence falls on the accused, or like police has to provide the evidence.
See, the burden of proof is such that, of course, the accused always has to prove his innocence. But also the prosecution, the onus is on the prosecution also to prove a case beyond beyond a reasonable doubt, right? So even if there are, if it's a case of direct evidence, even if it is a case of circumstantial evidence, when there are no direct eyewitnesses, the link has to be established, and that link has to be formed in a way that there has no other probability that only and only this person can be held guilty in the court of law. There is not even a slightest of possibility that any other person could be probably guilty. So that link, if is not established, on that very ground itself, most of the times, most of my clients have been acquitted because the prosecution could not prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. The onus obviously equally lies in the prosecution also to to produce evidence, to show all the materials that somehow strengthen their allegations. So merely because on the basis of allegation, if you start putting people inside, actually 80-90% probably of the 80% 75% people will be just inside, because it will be so easy. Just imagine the police machinery would become so powerful, would be so powerful that probably they will just in vendetta, out of grudge or out of एक order ऊपर से आ रहा है उनको कि यार चलो इसको फंसाना है, क्योंकि because somebody could have probably a vendetta against this particular person, तो बोलेंगे अगर पुलिस ऑफिसर के साथ उनकी अच्छी है तो बोलेंगे चलो चलो इसको फंसाओ, कुछ भी केस डाल के फंसाओ. So that is where the legal fraternity, like lawyers like us, and then the judiciary comes into the play, and we ensure that this malicious prosecution is brought to light, and justice is secured for these innocent ones who are probably just because of somebody's vendetta, yeah,
True.
somebody's somebody's some vindictive कुछ अप्रोच के वजह से कोई इंसान अंदर है.
Especially cases like this, high profile cases. Do you have to take pressure from the media? Matlab, how do you control that pressure? Not only from media, maybe from police also, like because you're going against all odds to defend your client.
So pressure, like how I told you, see, media pressure is also inevitable, but because I'm always very calm and like very in my approach, I know that this is a
Sure.
part and parcel of this profession. This is like a professional hazard, and honestly, I don't take the pressure in my head because I'm so focused on the facts of my case and producing the evidence in courts before the court of law. So that is what matters to me, honestly. Media opinion, until and unless my verdict is out, is inconsequential for me. But of course, with pressure, if you've seen me, I've always handled it very pretty fine, pretty nicely, because now I'm used to it. Because right from the beginning, my very first case was Haryana. One of the first few cases was Haryana encounter case, which was a very high profile matter, where I got
Yes.
the model out, those people out. They're also, though, unfortunately, that model was killed later after coming out. But I've been used to it right from the beginning. So media pressure, you call it pressure, but for me, it is like a habit. I'm dealing with it day in, day out. So now I'm used to it. But I know with the pressure, of course, there is a responsibility which I'm shouldering pretty well all throughout. So that is very crucial for me, and that I'm always living up to.
Okay, so transitioning from courthouse to Big Boss house, how challenging was it? What made you say yes to a reality show?
Yeah, actually, you're right. Saying yes also was also very difficult on my part because I was getting offers like since many seasons. This was but this season in season 17, I don't know. Like it was just Diwali vacation was around the corners. I've already said it on record many times. So Diwali vacation was around the corner. I thought, okay, I'll be able to manage with my schedule because my schedule is such. I don't know about the other contestants who went inside. Probably for them, I don't know whether they had work outside or not. For me, I'm like for me even I don't get a breathing space also, honestly. I don't get the time to breathe also in a day. That's the kind of schedule I have, even appointments, court work, then again meetings, and then, like 8 hours of sleep is what I manage. Other than that, I'm always working and I enjoy my work. So, of course, to say yes to that show, and again, it was a very dramatic show, for even
True.
people who are used to cameras, and even actors also fear and shiver before saying yes to a show like that. So, for me, who's not even from the acting background, obviously for me it was even more challenging, and it would have been even more fearful, but I handled it like really calmly. Even I went inside, but I said yes, and then of course I was very apprehensive, so I told them in the beginning that I wouldn't want to stay for a very long time in the show. That is what my approach was right from the beginning, because I had work commitment outside also. So I'd gone there just for an experience. I never went there inside to win or something, because to win you have to stay for a very long time.
Yeah, true.
But despite of which, I was there for about 10 weeks. But again, I had a very enriching experience because I dealt with and I communicated, interacted with people from different walks of life, and of course I made few friends there. So but if you see, I never really indulged in stupid fights for the sake of footage, because I never needed it, honestly. I come from a very different background. I was always, I mean, I was always famous for my cases and everything. So for
True.
me, fame was not a necessity for to doing this show, because I was always famous. That's why I was being offered several shows, not just Big Boss, honestly. But then somehow, for me, it was more about staying true to my personality. And if you saw, I was always very calm, observant, never indulging stupid fights. But when somebody poked me, then I would speak up very firmly, and I would like just give them back, left, right, center. That's how my nature is in real life also. And then I would just shut that person up. That's how even I was on the show also. So if you saw, there were some major fights with few of the contestants, relatively selectively only with few contestants, because somehow नहीं जमती है तो फिर वही, और हर रोज आपको एक ही साथ रहना है, तो जबरदस्ती रहना ही है, उनका शक्ल देखना ही है. So you're bound to, of course, retort, and you're bound to fight. So that used to happen. But all in all, if you sum it up, of course, I think I believe that I did the right time, because that also worked. Somehow when you step out of the comfort zone, you grow. That's what
True.
happened to me, honestly. I somehow, that helped me grow as a person also. Of course, I was growing in my career throughout, but that somehow paused. I took a pause for a while. It was like a break where I took a break, and I went inside, I interacted, and I experienced a lot of things. So when you come out, you don't come out as the same person. You come out a different person altogether. That honestly is a fact. You're not the same
Is
person.
that the case? A different person when you come out?
Yeah, you come out a different person, because the kind of experience that you get inside is, of course, is extremely different from all of the experiences that you have had. And for me, obviously, dealing with so many cases where I'm getting my clients out, from the prison. So when they come out, they say, oh, they felt locked, they felt suffocated and all that. Honestly, even inside for a while, even I felt locked, completely cut out from the world. My parents, who I'm so addicted to my mother, every day I need to speak to her every 2 hours, and then again, not having any idea about what is happening outside, what you do inside, how it is actually reaching outside. So that's a completely different experience altogether. This could actually probably see, it's not easy. Honestly, this could even affect your mental health also, honestly.
Of course.
For a while it does, like you're out, and then you suddenly realize, acha, that was real world, or this is real world, or what is happening? It takes you at least 2-3 days to come back to reality also, and then actually get back to normal and acquire that normalcy in life. So, but then all in all, it's a good experience. Like, I had it, been there, done that. I needed to know, actually. I've been watching that show right from my not watching. I never watched that show, but I've been hearing about the show right from my childhood. Of course, had I seen the show, and I would be more prepared during my season. I never seen or watched any of the seasons, so that also has its own charm, because I was never prepared. I never had any any plan, or any just a people go plan, and people go with full preparation. I never had any of that, and that, I think, worked for me. Natural. My game is very natural, and I was very natural throughout
True.
the show.
You don't come from a conventional entertainment background, though
Hmm.
your stint was simply amazing in Big Boss. So, any future plans to enter the entertainment industry?
So why not, actually? If something aligns with my purpose and goal, then why not? Because see, if I get an offer, I got many offers. Even after the show, I get many offers, which I refused, honestly, because I was building up my firm and I was doing a lot of things on the side. So, but if something really, I would definitely like to work on something, on a movie or something where, a strong social message is also being sent out. Like, I'm just not working, like, I probably, like a very, like I wouldn't like to do a project or a movie which is like a no-brainer movie, which
Sure.
you leave mind at home and then you do it. That wouldn't probably appeal to me. But something which has substance, something which where a social message is being strong, or when people go inside before entering the theater and after coming out, they should come out as more informed and more aware. And something changes or touches you here. That kind of a movie, obviously, I would want to do. Honestly, why
Okay.
not? If something is like that, then why not? Then I would probably take a break for a little while, and I don't mind doing. But
Of
anyway, if
both.
you see, I'm doing my show. Anyway, I'm doing Rule of Law with Sana Raees Khan on NDTV. And I keep doing, something on the side, like where I'm enlightening people, I'm creating awareness, and my social commentary is always there, and everything.
Okay, so give your honest opinion of the portrayal of judicial system that has been portrayed in Indian cinema.
Honestly, if you ask me my honest opinion, see, they over dramatize it, They over dramatize and they're sensationalized. In fact, oh God, I was watching one movie, wherein trial was being conducted in a high court. Like, really, trial, it was some 376 trial, and they're showing that trial pura conduct or a high court. I mean, like, it's a basic procedural sense, which I think movie makers should probably have before you actually make a movie covering the aspects about the trial or about a case or court, because it is see, because cinema can be a powerful tool. So you also owe a responsibility to the audience, that you show the correct picture of the cinema, correct picture of the court, what actually happens inside. So
True.
appeal. So see, in high court is only where you can conduct appeal against a conviction. So after conviction, you can even file appeal in the High Court, but you can't really create a witness box in the High Court, and people are coming and giving, and deposing before the court in the High Court in witness box, and trial is being conducted. This is impossible. So I think obviously they dramatize it, and sometimes they show lawyers like yelling ha ha ha, ha like that, and judges are also like okay, over dramatized. Judges are also giving verdict within a day. That's not how it happens. अरे सुबह आया, एक evidence दिखाया, एक CCTV चलाया, और वो video वीडियो वो वीसी चलाया किसी वो मूवी में मैं देख रही आई वाज जस्ट वाचिंग इन अ मूवी कि एक वीडियो में बोला ये देखो जज साहब ये एविडेंस है देखो जज भी ऐसा नहीं किया अच्छा हाँ हाँ दिखाओ अभी देखा और अभी वर्डिक्ट पास ओके फाइन गिल्टी या एक्विटेड ऐसा नहीं होता है दिस इज नॉट हाउ इट happens even if you produce an evidence honestly you have to first give a notice like that I mean in the court you have to give an application make an application in that regard ऐसा नहीं कि सब कुछ ऐसे within a fraction of a second that's not how it happens even cross examination also while you're cross examining a person it doesn't happen कि मैंने किसी से question पूछा तो immediately he has to answer then that gets typed in the court whatever I'm asking that question first that question gets recorded वो type होता है फिर वो पहले जाता है उसके बाद witness also gets sufficient time to answer यहाँ पे just दिखाता है हाँ ना तुम बोलो बोलो ऐसे 1 second में नहीं होता है so obviously they don't show the real picture and the reality of the court. So if you actually capture everything very accurately, then I think that would be true experience of how the courts would look like or what a court experience could be. But yeah, cinema, as I reiterate, that is a powerful tool. So they should actually, they should articulate it properly.
How do you handle moral dilemma, especially when you are picking up a client? Okay, do you matlab, how is it? You don't think about it. He has done the crime. He has committed the crime or not, or you think like my job is to like defend him, and that's what I'll do.
See, my strategy is, of course, first reading the papers, honestly, reading the case first and reading the charge sheet first. If I read the case and if I read the charge sheet and if I feel that this person is not guilty, so basis what my clients will say, I will never decide. My clients can come and tell me, listen, ma'am, I'm innocent. I have not committed a murder. I have not committed dacoity. I have not raped this person. I'm not. They will never tell me that I have that they're never going to confess to their crime to me. That's a given. So for me, honestly, analyzing it on the basis of the facts and the chart sheet, what the chart sheet says and the evidentiary value, that comes into the picture and that becomes a determining factor for me to decide whether I should take up the case or not. There have been instances where I have refused cases where where people are willing to offer crores and crores and but that did not align with my purpose or my moral principle because I've read the case and I felt this person has done it. चाहे वो कितना भी बोले उसने नहीं किया है, that person has done it. It's a high profile case, like in fact, that man is still inside. उनके against तो ऐसा that he's a sadhu, is a baba, and I'm sure you will get it that he's a baba and he's allegation against him that he's of course molested, sexually assaulted several girls. He's very old, so the clients of course on the clients and the relatives were requesting me कि उनके age related issue की वजह से आप case ले लो. I said no. And they were of course claiming he's innocent. I said no. And I did not take it up and he's still inside. He's still incarcerated. जबकि उनकी तो वो मतलब ऐसी age है that he can die anytime soon. Despite of that, he's not out yet. So obviously somewhere when it contravenes with my moral principle, so I have to decide and I have to demarcate and draw a line. So that I don't accept. But otherwise, like how you said, so it becomes somehow I classify cases in my head also. I classify that and I analyze and all that happens basis the chart sheet. And obviously I'm defended so many unpopular clients like how I said and that also. But for me, honestly, our constitution, what is the pillar of our constitution? Right to fair trial. That is the pillar of our constitution. What is the cardinal principle of criminal litigation, which is innocence, presumption of innocence? That is a cardinal principle. So these are so essential, and so that is what determines and becomes a determining factor. That merely because this person is is already guilty in the media, and I will refuse the case. That's not how it happens. Because he or she also has the right to a fair trial. He or she also has the right to speedy trial. He or she also has the right to be heard also. So that's where I come to the picture and I ensure that I secure justice for these people.
Okay, so is there any case in your career which has still stayed with you because it was very difficult for you, the effort that you have to put through it and stuff?
Difficult. So obviously, like many cases, see, most of the cases that I handle are difficult only. Easier ones won't come to me honestly because easier ones, others are available for the easier ones. All the difficult because I take up challenging cases and I always ensure that because of my success rate in the most challenging cases also, I honestly ensure that I take up more difficult ones only so that I also like somehow because I don't have the time in the world, right? So even I have to allot my time basis. I refuse at least 60% cases and I accept only 40% cases from the 100% cases that I receive. Otherwise, I keep receiving cases. I'm flourished with flooded with cases every day. So I have to decide what cases to take up. So most of them are difficult.
Topping the chart, one difficult case which has it's always there
Yeah.
on the top of your mind, yes, it is something which is there.
I think several few, like one or two, I can, if I can say, one person who was just hardly 20 years old. He came to me, and he also, against him also, drugs cases. He was also charged for the offense under NDPS, drugs cases, and because of which, he wanted to study abroad. But because of the case, once an FIR is registered, you can't even travel. There's a lot of issues. You can't really leave the country because you have to keep attending the trial date every day. So I filed for caution. Now, when I file for quashing, but NDPS cases and drugs cases, drugs cases don't get quashed, honestly, because special cases, special statutes like organized crime, syndicate, drugs, it's not easy to quash them. So, of course, again, then when I filed it, there were a lot of there's a lot of opposition, and I really fought really hard, and I actually got the case quashed. So, that was and that was an emotional moment for me, because of which that guy ultimately traveled, and he could actually lead his future happily because he had a promising career, right? Then even in a few cases, like in one case against one person, against whom there was a charge of bomb, that a bomb was found from his own house. So UAPA, like UAPA is unlawful activity prevention, so that also means terrorism, like earlier Tada case. So that was invoked against him. So he was already declared guilty. I mean, before even he's been declared guilty by the court of law. So again, now in that case, I defended him rigorously, and I of course I pointed out all the procedural lapses and evidentiary value, like Section 27. How Section 27 of the Evidence Act states that talks about the recovery procedure. In this case, there was recovery before his arrest. Like bomb was recovered. Thereafter, he's being shown as arrested. So there were so many procedural lapses and so many violations which I pointed out before the court, and I ultimately got him out. And then I even challenged the recovery of bomb from his house, from his go down. House is also not in his exclusive name. So you cannot foist a recovery against an individual when the house is not in your name in exclusivity. So several things, and ultimately when he got out, so he told me something which actually kind of stayed with me. He told me that, ma'am, Sana ma'am, no, I chose you as a lawyer not just because of your legal acumen. That we all know that you have a very strong legal acumen and all that, but I also chose you. Another reason for choosing you is also that you belong to a particular community. He said. So that is the reason, now because मेरे ऊपर इनके ऊपर ऐसे charges है that वो एक terrorist है, and against a certain community है वो. So he wanted to make a point in the world also, to the world also, that see my lawyer, I'm choosing a lawyer from a particular community. I'm not so I'm not like that. I'm no, don't call me a terrorist. I'm not against any particular community. I'm not against this. So that was also another message that he wanted to send out through of course, by appointing me, in addition to obviously my merits and my legal acumen. So that also stayed with me, that somewhere, somehow this kind of, that was very peculiar to hear, honestly. Though it is one of the most challenging and again high profile case, but somehow I cracked it and I got him out, and I really feel I take pride in that I somehow helped an innocent man coming out.
That's amazing. My last question to you, okay? Any word of advice to the young lawyer, especially woman lawyer who wants to come, in this field?
Honestly, just be fearless. Be fearless and just follow your
It's
path.
not easy to be fearless. So,
Fearless.
some
That is the reason I'm saying that, if you see my journey, my trajectory has been such that it was, again, anybody in my place would have easily backed out also when faced with death threats and all that. I could have easily chosen that path, but I have come this far, regardless of all this, because of my strength, because of that innate faith in myself. So never stop believing in yourself. Always believe in yourself, be fearless, and just master your craft. Honestly, that is of course essential. That and never believe in the stereotypes कि अच्छा आप ऐसे दिखते हो तो आपको ये फील्ड में नहीं होना चाहिए, आप ऐसे ये सब आपको you'll be, of course, people will are opinionated, or there is no tax on speaking. So people speak and people give you opinions, but ultimately you should be intelligent enough to understand that what matters and what doesn't. This is a field where intellect meets impact. Where when you're intellectual, when you're smart, you can actually create an impactful you can actually create an impact, and you can actually make a difference. And in this field, you can actually speak for those people whose voices cannot be heard otherwise. So it's a very, very, I always say it's a very powerful profession. It's not just a noble profession. People say it's a noble profession. According to me, it's one of the most powerful profession, because here people's lives are at stake, and you are impacting people's lives.
very true.
So choose it. So don't choose it as some kind of a fancy, okay? Like if you've seen a movie and you thought, oh, that girl looks really good in black coat and black gown. Why not I also try it out? So it's not a case. It's not a profession where you do it out of whims and fancy. It's a very serious profession. It's a very responsible profession. If you take it up, then you have to devote your life to it. So of course, keeping that in mind and just be fearless and just enjoy. Also enjoy your work. I think you'll be good.
If I ask you your favorite movie, okay, which was based on any legality itself, movie or series, what that would be?
I think honestly that's yet to be made. To be very honest, I'll be very frank with you. I've seen many. I've seen many. Pink is somewhat somewhere, Pink is a little bit, like I can say at least it is close to what is shown in real, little, but still not covered everything very accurately.
Okay,
So it's yet to be made. In fact, I would be very happy to actually be a part of something like that, honestly, when I probably might just play a lead or something,
sure.
or some crucial character in a movie, which, and I will ensure that it captures the real nuances and not just like filmy bahut na lage. So it's yet to be made, and I would honestly, be happy to be a part of it.
So definitely. Thank you so much, Ms. Sana. It
Thank
was
you.
lovely talking to you. Very
Thank you.
insightful. Thank you so much
Likewise.
for this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.